Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Community Works. I'm Bernadette Welsh, your host. Each one of our shows highlights a local nonprofit agency in our community. Our goal is to educate you, our viewers, about the great work that's going on all around us every day by local agencies and their supporters. When people help their neighbors, everybody benefits. The focus of today's show is the work of the Community Foundation, and I am so pleased to have one of their premier executive type people on the show to tell us what it's all about. So please join me in welcoming Jackie Downing. And Jackie is the Senior Director of Grant Making and Nonprofit Support for the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. So welcome to the show, Jackie.
Thank you, Bernadette, so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We're going to have a great show. All right, so a lot of people might not understand what the Community Foundation does. What is its mission? A little bit of history. Is it in downtown New Haven? How does it work?
So let me give you the history. The Community Foundation is almost 100 years old. It was founded in 1928 as the community's endowment. The bankers back then, and started in Cleveland actually in 1912, the bankers had folks leaving the world and leaving their money with the banks. And they said, this is not something we do in perpetuity. We manage people who walk through the bank doors. So they weren't quite sure how to connect with the community to make sure that those dollars that were left behind worked well in the community. So in Cleveland, they created a community endowment, the Cleveland Foundation, and brought together people who would be able to work in the community to distribute the funds of those donors who cared so much about their community. New Haven thought that was a great idea, and it came here in 1928. So since then, we have been collecting the dollars from donors who care about this community, and our Greater New Haven community is the 20 towns around New Haven. So we go along the shoreline from Milford to Madison, up to the Cheshire and Wallingford on the north end, and the lower Naugatuck Valley, Ansonia, Derby, Oxford, Seymour, and Shelton. So that's our service area, our 20-town area. Donors from there and the nonprofits from there are all part of our family, and we care for them all.
That's wonderful. Okay, that gives us a good overview. So, but how does the organization actually work? How does the money go from there to there? Could you explain a little bit more what that does?
Sure. So donors have an opportunity to create at the Community Foundation a fund with their name on it, or just leave us the money on their own, and then we can make the decisions. So the Community Foundation has been gathering this money, as I said, for 97 years from donors in the community. Let's say in 1942, Mrs. Silverthau left us money for the provision of milk and coal, because in her time, keeping people warm and ensuring proper nutrition through milk was very important. Well, to this day, we honor Mrs. Silverthau's wishes because there are still people who are food insecure, and there are still people who need fuel assistance.
Okay.
So we've modernized it. It goes to fuel banks. We don't do coal so much anymore.
Coal anymore.
But we're still doing fuel assistance, and Mrs. Silverthau is still keeping people warm.
Wow.
So we would never vary the wishes of a donor.
Okay.
We wouldn't say, hey, Mrs. Silverthau, look, there was just a pandemic. Or Mrs. Silverthau, look at the needs of technology these days. No one anticipated computers. So, but there are still the needs that she created.
Okay.
Fund for, so we continue to give money for those things. Donors leave us their money. They can tell us a specific organization they want it to go to. Let's say right now you're very fond of animals and you always give to the animal shelter.
Right.
And forever you want to make sure that they're taken care of. You can create a fund at the foundation and say, I always want my money to go to the animal shelter. And we will continue to send them their gift every year. And it will grow year after year after year as we invest the funds.
Okay, so that's the other thing about how it works. So if I gave you in my will $10,000 and I said I want it to go to help homeless women and children, you would use the interest from my gift?
That's right, and you just went to the next type of fund. So there's the designated. You say I want it to go to a particular organization, then it will always go to that organization. Now we come up with a plan B, because if that business goes out of business, we want to make sure that your wishes are still going to be stewarded. So we'll come up with a plan B. If the animal shelter goes out of business, do you want to go to any other animal shelter, or do you just want to stay with animal causes? Then we use that, and like the example you used, homeless shelters. Through our competitive grant making, we get applications from shelters all throughout our region. We can then say, oh, Bernadette's money was for homeless shelters. This shelter is in need right now. They're well run. They're doing great work, great impact in the community. We're going to use that money to fund this grant.
And you do care about how well run a certain nonprofit is, or any kind of organization. You do your research, you do your due diligence, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I'm sure
Absolutely.
you do.
They have to be a 501c3.
Okay.
So they have to be certified by the IRS to receive donations, or they have to be working with a fiscal sponsor that will allow them to do that, so we know there's financial oversight.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a good board of directors.
Yes.
Volunteers in the community who are the independent oversight people.
Yes.
Who are watching what's going on within the organization. They have to be able to know that it's sustainable. We don't want to give someone $10,000 today
Right.
and have them go out of business tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we also offer support services that will help organizations to sustain themselves. So we do look at organizations all the way through to make sure that they're having the impact that they say they want to have,
Mm-hmm.
that the clients are satisfied, that they're reaching everyone in the community that they can be reaching.
Yes.
You know, you can't serve everyone, but if they have to have the capacity to be able to serve enough people
For sure.
for us to be able to fund them.
And if the donor passes on the children, do the children sometimes, or the heirs of that donor, keep an eye out on mom's or grandma's gift?
Sure, you can. A donor can set it up that way. So you can set it up so that during your lifetime, you can make the decisions about your grant making, and then when you're no longer able or care to make those decisions, you can pass it on to someone else in your family to make those decisions, or you can pass it on to the community foundation, because we see so many nonprofits. We see hundreds of applications every year.
I'm sure you
So
do.
it gives us the opportunity to really get to know our local organizations. And again, we only give in our 20-town region.
Right. It's for Greater New Haven.
Right. So, you know, there are needs in Bridgeport, there are needs in Hartford and Danbury and New London. There are community foundations there too.
Okay, good.
They take care of them. We just take care of our
You
20-town
take
region.
ours.
But when your successor does not want to make those decisions anymore, that's that plan B we talked about. There's always something in your fund agreement
Okay.
that tells us what to do when you no longer want to make those decisions. You can designate it to a specific organization, to a cause or a geography. If you always want it to go to North Haven nonprofits,
Yep.
we can do that, because we get plenty of applications for North Haven nonprofits.
Okay.
Or if you wanted to just leave it as an unrestricted gift, that's our favorite.
Oh, of
because I said there are
course.
things that come up in society that we could not anticipate. Who could have anticipated HIV and AIDS?
No.
Or this last pandemic we went through? So there are always emerging needs that we don't anticipate, and it's nice to have unrestricted dollars that we're able to call on and use to answer what the community needs.
Well, thank you, Jackie. I think it's very important for folks to understand that whether it's specific or unrestricted, that the foundation is always going to do a good job with the money that you give them. And I think that's very comforting and very important for our viewers to know.
Right. And one of the other facets that we do is we invest that fund. So as you said, we use the interest only from these funds.
Right.
So we have been investing our funds, and we invest wisely, prudently, long term. We're not going to go for an immediate return. We're going for a long-term, steady return. And we are the country's only community foundation that is a registered investment advisor, because we handle the endowments of about 120 other organizations.
Okay.
The New Haven Symphony, wonderful at making classical music. Not really money managers.
Yeah.
But we do. We do that for them. So they place their assets with us, remains their asset, but they place it with us, and we invest it with our pool of assets. So we have about $770 million in our pool, including the assets of others.
Mm-hmm.
That gives us a lot of investment power.
Yeah.
And allows us to tap into vehicles that others might not have the access to.
Because they just don't have the dollars. They don't have enough dollars.
Right. And then we use the proceeds from that corpus in order to do our grant making. So we put about $30 million into the community every year.
So, Jackie, I understand that in this large organization, you have a specific job, And that job is part of your introduction as a director of grant making and nonprofit support. Now, I know we've been talking around that. We really have, but maybe you could get a little bit more specific about the job that you do at the Community Foundation.
Okay, so I have 3 hats that I wear. I always say 3 halves of my job because it really is. It's a big job, and I love what I do. So the first half of my job is that nonprofit grant making, the competitive grant making side of what we do. We have a variety of programs, so we try to be a place for everyone to see themselves in being able to get funds from the Community Foundation. So we have a neighborhood leadership program for people with good ideas and passion who want to start a new idea, and they get 5 months of leadership training and a small seed grant to start their idea. They don't have to be a 501c3, but that's a foot in the door. That's not a program that I manage, but there is a small grant program for smaller organizations to come in and get up to $15,000, or if it's a really small organization, they can get $5,000 and a consultant to help them build their strength. We have a responsive grant program, which is multi-year general operating support up to $50,000, so organizations have a long-term investment from us to be able to do what they're doing in the community without restriction.
Okay.
We have a Quinnipiac River Fund that was started with the fine that Upjohn paid for contaminating the Quinnipiac River, and we continue to this day to invest that fund in the community for prevention of contamination and awareness and use of the Quinnipiac River to this day and in the watershed. We have a community fund for women and girls, and there's grant making to move the societal needle for women and girls.
Okay, important one.
So my grant making is making sure that organizations all know about us, that can come in and apply for the program that fits the best. And then beyond that, and then we'll get to the nonprofit support part, beyond that are so many programs that are beyond the grant, because there are some organizations where cash is not the only thing they need.
Right.
They need some help in understanding how to run their organization. We're not going to teach a youth service organization how to serve youth, but we will help them in structuring their finances or recruiting a good, strong board and then training the board to make sure they can do what they need to do. We're going to help them with marketing and with fundraising and with grant writing, all those skills that they need above and beyond just getting money in the door. So that's the nonprofit support program. We have roundtables for board chairs and executive directors on a monthly basis just to get together and commiserate, learn from one another. There's so much wisdom in the community that it's nice to bring people together just to learn from them. It also gives us an opportunity to hear what's going on, what the pressing issues are, and then we can help by addressing them.
Wow, so there's a good communication between maybe somebody that's sitting there that's been a CEO for 15 years and somebody that's just starting out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great service. Mentoring is very important, I think, in any organization.
Yep.
So I'm glad to hear that you guys do that too.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm a nonprofit. Let's say I'm fairly new. How do I apply? Do I go online? Do I go to the office? Maybe somebody listening to this program is going to think, wow, I didn't know about the Community Foundation. Let me get into that. So what do they do?
Well, you'll see on our website, CFGNH.org, which we're going to get to at the end. Yeah, and we're going to put that up for everyone. There are so many resources available there, but there is a section there called Strengthening Nonprofits. So there are a couple of things on that site in the Strengthening Nonprofits area to look at. There's a grid about grants to apply for, all the grants that we offer, what the timing is, what the eligibility is. We also do in January a grant seeker webinar to talk about what the whole plan is. So in the middle of January, we will lay out 2026. So an organization can come in and find out where they fit in, see where they see themselves within these processes. We also have on that site a nonprofit resource center. So if you're a nonprofit and you have a question about what do I do with a website, or how do I do that fund development thing, or what's this HR, how do I get an HR answer? You can go there and alphabetically search for resources any time of the day or night, any weekend, that you need some answers on running your organization. So that resource is always there for you.
I think that's great too, because again, you cannot be an expert at everything in your business.
No.
Whether it's an auto dealership or a nonprofit, you still can't be the best at everything. It's always good to know there's a place where you can learn.
Right.
It's like going on YouTube and you want to know how to do something electrical. You go there and you watch a tutorial. Or you can go to the Community Foundation and figure out how to run something that you're not an expert at. And I think that's great. Okay. All right. So now what we'd like to do, folks, is Jackie has sent us some pictures that will illustrate what happens a little bit at the Community Foundation. And so my wonderful director, Victor, is going to show you this first picture. And Jackie, that is you. What are you doing?
This is me, and I'm teaching a class. I think I was at the Blackstone Memorial Library in Brantford, teaching a class, and I believe this class was on grant writing. We often do it in locations throughout our region so that we can get to everyone. And we teach a lot of classes. I don't teach them all. We bring in subject matter experts. I teach some of them, but not most of them. We bring in subject matter experts to really talk about what's going on. And as you can see, we have a diverse group of people, young and old, and very experienced people and people who are new in the industry, all coming to learn together.
Yep, she's taking notes. I like that. And what do we have here?
Oh, this was a fun event. This was the Wallingford YMCA talent show that just happened last week. It was the end of their summer camp, so they brought all of their sites together, the Elbert camps, and all the camps came together and did a talent show. And I got to tell you, they've got some talented kids and some really attentive, good kids that sat and watched this and were supportive of each other. And parents came, lined along the back. The mayor was there and also was very supportive of what was going on, so it was nice to be part of the Wallingford Y.
Okay, because the Wallingford Y is a nonprofit.
It is.
Very good. Okay, and what do we have next? Oh, look at that. I like that check.
So here we are, another couple of nonprofits all in the same place. So that's Shannon Bullard and her daughter. Her daughter actually started Seymour Food to Kids. Now Shannon's day job is with Julia Day, another nonprofit daycare center in the Valley. But Shannon's daughter started Seymour Food to Kids because she saw kids at school that she knew went home that didn't have food. So they do a food packing backpack program.
Wow.
So on Fridays, they send kids home with backpacks full of food and snacks so they can make it because they don't get the school lunch and the school breakfast over the weekend.
What a big heart that little girl
This
has.
check is an $1,800 prize that was awarded by the Jewish Foundation for Greater New Haven, and those, Lisa Stanger and Sarah Domina, are representatives of the foundation. That was a prize in the Great Give. So Seymour Food to Kids got the most gifts during a certain hour, a power hour during the Great Give, and we'll talk more about the Great Give in a little bit. And this is at the JCC, another nonprofit, the Jewish Community Center in Woodbridge.
Yes, a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay, and that looks like a lecture of some sort.
This is a celebration. This, as you can barely see on the screen, but it says Emerging Leaders of Color Nonprofit Management Program. One of our grant programs and our leadership development programs is a program for middle management people who are people of color that work at nonprofits that aspire to be executive directors.
Okay.
They may not have had the background in training or opportunity to be able to take the big chair, but we want to make sure that they're ready to do that when executive directors are moving on. And so many are now retiring and moving on that we want to make sure that they have the background they need. So we have a cohort of 10 emerging leaders that go through the program together for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
The first year, and this is the culmination of the first year, is 9 months spent with UConn in a training program where they get really practical skills with industry leaders, talking to them about HR and finances and leadership, their own leadership style. And they work together as a cohort to get all of that done. This is their graduation ceremony. They get a certificate. UConn then also offers them scholarship money to go on at UConn if they'd like to go graduate or undergraduate, and credits for taking this program. And then the second year is an individual development plan. So each person gets to work on the thing they need to beef up the most in their own skills. And this is we brought together the first cohort as they were finishing their second year, and the second cohort is they're finishing their first year, and this is the award ceremony at the end of that. And parents are invited, and coworkers as well.
Well, great. Those are some good examples, visual examples with your explanation of more things that the Community Foundation does that are any person interested in running a nonprofit would need to know. So thank you, Jackie. That was great. Okay. So we've talked around this. What else does the Community Foundation do besides awarding grants? We have touched on some of that. Is there anything we've left out that you want to highlight of something that the Community Foundation does that's not awarding a grant?
Well, we've mentioned it a couple of times, and I want to make sure that we get to the Great Give and Give
Okay,
Greater.
so then let's do that. Let's talk about the Great Give. Why is the Great Give such a benefit to the community, and how does the Community Foundation get involved with the Great Give?
So first, let me tell our listeners what the Great Give is.
Okay,
in
sure.
case
We
there
assume
are
everybody
two or three
knows.
people out there who don't know. The Great Give is an online giving event that has happened 16 times here in Greater New Haven, and it continues to grow. There were 544 nonprofits last year that in 36 hours raised $4.4 million.
Wow, $4.4 million.
From this community.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an amazing event. It is a fundraising frenzy.
Yes.
We don't make it competitive. A lot of people think it's sort of the Hunger Games, but the prizes are not competitive. They are randomly drawn. So a small organization or a large organization has an equal chance of winning a prize. We try to make it non-competitive, but we try to make it fun. So the early bird prize, first thing in the morning, if you get one gift, you can get chosen.
Okay.
If you get 50 gifts, you have 50 chances of getting chosen.
Right.
So folks use that as an incentive to motivate their donors during that hour.
Right. They send out the email and say, do it now, do it now.
Right. So the foundation provides the platform. The foundation pays for all of that, and we put some marketing in just to create buzz in the community. And then we do some training for the nonprofits, a lot of training to help them succeed at the things that they want to do within the program. There's a peer-to-peer campaign they can do. They can bring in their own matches. They can do all kinds of things, and we give them tips and tricks on how to make it successful. And successful can be on different scale. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater New Haven is raising over $100,000. A new small organization that's never had a fundraiser before raised $2,000, and they thought that was the world.
Yeah, that was wonderful for them.
Yeah. So it's really whatever the scale and size of the organization is. Just to be a part of it is a great opportunity for so many. It happens every May. It's open to every nonprofit that really serves in this region. It's not national organizations. It's only local organizations. And we also have the opportunity to have year-round view of what our nonprofits are doing.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show. How does this year-round thing work?
Yeah, so the Great Give is the event, happens 36 hours, and then, a couple days before, a couple days after, and then it disappears.
Right.
But givegreater.org, I'll say that again, givegreater.org, is a database of about 500 local nonprofits with their mission, their accomplishments, their programs, their volunteer staff, their volunteer leadership, their board, their paid staff, and 2 to 3 years of financial statements. So a person in the community that's looking for an opportunity to volunteer may say, I like animals. So who in this area is doing good animal work? You can go to Give Greater, search on animals, and see all those organizations who for free have chosen to list themselves, and see what organizations are out there doing good work. And you can learn a lot about them. And then if you want to know more, it's all the contact information to be able to get to that organization.
That is a very valuable piece.
And
they can do that by going to the website.
Right.
Because that's my next question. What will folks find on the website?
Well, that's the givegreater.org website.
Oh, that's a separate website?
That's a separate website, but you can always link it through our Community Foundation
I'm sure you could
website.
link it. I'm sure you can link it.
On the Community Foundation's website, there are all the grant opportunities, all the workshops and nonprofit support that we do. There's also information about the timely issues that are happening within the community. There's also the Well-Being Index. We commission Data Haven to do some real research in our community to find out how we're doing, and we do this
so
every
you have
few
some
years.
data, some objective numbers to see what's working and what's not working?
Right. How people feel safe in their community. How safe do they feel? How's their education in the community? How's their engagement in politics and in civic engagement? Health outcomes are in there. So you can go there and find out what's really happening within our region. What do people think of our region? And it's done. It can be done by town. It's also done by Greater New Haven area. There's also a separate Valley Index if they want to look at the Valley Index. But it's an interesting opportunity to get a snapshot of what's going on in New Haven. And now that we've done this for so many years, you can trend it to see if things are getting better or things are getting worse.
I can understand that. Could even in how school systems, how are school systems doing? So that the greater community out there can use your website as a resource for many things.
That's right.
For many things, not just if they want to be a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent too. I really do appreciate you giving us that information. So we're coming to the end of our program, Jackie, but I cannot resist asking you why you are involved with the Community Foundation. How did they find you? How did you find them? What's the story?
Well, I had known about the Community Foundation for many years because I was working for nonprofits almost all of my life. So and in development and fundraising for most of that. So I had a circuitous route to get to the Community Foundation, and I didn't realize that I was in training for 35 years to get where I am. So I started with the New Haven Symphony.
Okay.
My arts background.
Your arts background.
My arts
yes.
background. So started with the New Haven Symphony. Doing education programs. I was actually a part-time stagehand when I started, but I
progressed.
I grew up and was the assistant manager by the time I left 9 years later. Ran the education programs, got the first computers up and running for the organization, and then I went to the Dixville Community Q House.
Okay.
As the development director to raise money. Left there 7 years later as program director. So I was doing programs for adjudicated youth, after-school programs, food pantry, 7-day-a-week teen center. So I got my arts background, I got my youth background. I left the Q House and went to Sacred Heart Academy, my alma mater, as development director. And then I did what I call my 4-year municipal hiccup. I was the deputy, then chief administrative officer for the town of Hamden.
Okay, and you're a Hamden gal.
And every day of my life, I'm a Hamden gal. So but they're doing the capital projects. So I understood how to do all of that. A lot of the press work that I did, wrote legislation, a lot of open space work, a lot of recycling, picking all of the environmental pieces up, and then went from there to what is now Capital for Change.
Okay. So you know what I'm hearing from you, Jackie, and I think this will be helpful for a lot of our viewers. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters what you learn along the way to get you to a place where Jackie is right now, where she's a senior director. And if you get involved, whether it's theater or whatever it is that you get involved in, you'll find that you'll learn things that will eventually bring you to a sweet spot, a better place. And so I so appreciate hearing people's stories about how they get to be where they are. And I love your story. And I'm going to have Jackie back on this show because we're going to talk about arts and theater again, because you folks know I'm passionate about that too. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching our show about the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, all the great things that Jackie does for that institution, and what that institution can do for you if you are in the nonprofit world, the business world, and need to know more. So we're going to show that website in a little bit, and I'm going to encourage you to take some information down so you can go to that website. And thank you, Jackie, for being on Community Works. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Because when people help their neighbors, everybody benefits.